Yeah, so I think that there is one thing that clearly stands out from the narrative so far, and that is the lack of clear targets and ambition for CCU in public policy currently. So we need to see a strong signal from decision makers that CCU is part of their toolkit to decarbonize industry. We need to see policy measures such as the legal incorporation of net zero and CO2 emissions targets, including utilization, into legislation. And unfortunately, this is not yet clear in the UK for utilization specifically. So the CCSA is in the process of developing a position for how this ambition actually look like. So now let's say that we have those clear targets and ambitions in place. We need a few further steps to deliver projects on the ground. And we think from the CCSA perspective that this could be a suite of 4 key things. So first, a business model for CCU that will provide a pathway for CCU projects to receive revenue support. Second is clarity on the funding envelope for CCU as well as CCUS more widely. That should be matched to the level of deployment required to meet net zero targets. It could also provide sufficient forward visibility of the funding that is available for projects and thus drive private sector investment into the project pipeline. Third is to enable the necessary CCUS infrastructure. So as we've outlined already, the CCUS value chain does not really work in isolation. So for each part to work, the whole value chain needs to be aligned. What is crucial here is for governments to also enable non-pipeline transport solutions. This is really important to enable investment into utilization, as a lot of the projects that could deploy CCU are actually not located close to an industrial cluster. Fourth is the development of low carbon product markets. So that should be in parallel with low carbon product standards and public procurement initiatives, and that will be key to driving investments and driving down the subsidy as well for CCUS when it is rolled out more widely. So permanent sequestration of CO2 in products such as low carbon cement and building materials can enable the creation of a low carbon products market in the UK and elsewhere. And the demand for these products is quickly ramping up. In addition, the introduction of voluntary carbon markets in the EU and UK can also play an important role in driving the CCU sector. And in this context, what will be critical going forwards is to define a regulatory framework for the inclusion of CCU in carbon markets, as well as forming definitions, clear definitions in the UK and EU emissions trading schemes around how permanency is defined within the context of utilization. And finally, something that sits alongside all of this is R&D and innovation funding. So this is essential to provide industry with the appropriate incentives to not only decarbonize their business models, but to also develop the necessary technological solutions.